Fran, it is I'm so delighted to have a conversation with you today and welcome.
Thank you, Meredith. I'm delighted to be here.
So we're just going to have, for those of you who are joining us and watching, hello, welcome. I'm Meredith, and I run a group coaching program. We meet every Wednesday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And we do essentially improv for speakers. We'll do other exercises. And it's also a place where people get to practice presentations, videos, their on camera presence, whatever it is that's up for them and where they're at with their businesses and what's needed for those businesses. And some people even work for organizations because building that brand awareness is really important these days. And Fran is one of the amazing members.
And we have so much fun. It is so useful to be able to think on your feet, to practice once a week thinking on my feet, so that when those moments happen in real life, I can actually handle it.
Exactly. So, Fran, let's introduce you to the community. So, Fran Gallaher, you and I met, oh my goodness, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago through Ruben. Was it through Ruben? Was no, it wasn't.
It was because we were in, it might have been the Kat Orsini's podcast networking mixer, or
Okay,
one of Jason's. It was a special event Jason Van Orden did. That's what it is.
that's what it was.
And we ended up in a breakout room, and you told me that I should be on TikTok.
I did.
And I believed you, which is really crazy. And I was terrified. I just spent the last hour showing someone how to get started on TikTok. And you changed my life. I'm just under 6,000 followers now. And I love TikTok.
That's fantastic. I'm so happy. Yeah, there's certain individuals and what they do for a living where I'm like, I think that this could be a really great platform for you and your business. So let's talk about that a little bit, which is you are an intuitive leadership coach. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, do you mind if I go the long way around the barn, Meredith?
Heck yeah, I do. I don't mind.
So, when I was a child, I saw non physical beings. There was a knight in armor who stood outside my bedroom door, and I knew no one else could see him. But I don't know when I discovered that. And I believe my mother suffered from depression. So she put me and my brother in a playroom for most of the day. She'd bring us out to give us lunch and have us take a nap, and then she put us back in there. And our older siblings were in school. So, and I wasn't allowed to ask questions. So that's insane to me now, having raised children and taken care of children. But because there was no way to ask questions, there was no one to tell me what I saw wasn't there. And so it was a little hitch in the normal parenting that turned out to benefit me. So I tried to deny my intuitive ability, but that didn't work. And later on, I ended up embracing it and redeveloping it. I'd love to get back to the level that I was at when I was 3 and 4, but it's been a long, hard road to even get close to that.
Mm.
And along the way, I ended up being invited to be a faculty member for something called the Program in Intuition. It was a high-end program designed to teach physicians and business leaders intuition. So I taught at the time the head of the VA, the head of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the head of Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, all kinds of heavy hitters. And it introduced me to using my intuition to benefit people and especially business leaders. And what was so exciting about it was that if I helped the head of the VA, then I helped hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people. And when I used to work with some of those heavy hitters, I would almost pass out when what I'm going to call connect with their energy,
Yeah.
because they it was such an opportunity. I could feel through them all the people I could reach. So I love working with business people, but I love working with almost anyone, actually.
Beautiful. Well, I want to go back a little bit. So you said when you were working with the VA and you were working with someone in leadership that you were helping hundreds of people. Can you think back to a story or a particular person that you were working with where you got to see firsthand the transformation that was able and the impact that this person was able to make?
Uh, I don't know that I ever saw the effect something had on the people, uh, in their downline, we're going to say, use that. But there was one executive I worked with, and we saw together, we looked at his life, and he had suspected this, but he felt that there was a little more disconnect between he and his wife than he liked, a little
Mhm.
bit more of an inappropriate emotional bond with someone else. And I wanted him to learn about boundaries. And I worked with him in the morning at this resort. And I passed him in the lobby of the resort later in the afternoon. He said he had called his wife and confessed that and said, let's work on our relationship. He had ended the inappropriate emotional relationship. He'd already bought the book and read half of it. So people who get things done can really benefit from our work together because I can give them the nudge that they might have suspected. Another quick story is I had an executive come to me and I was introduced to him and I was considered, I don't want this to be a bragging thing, but I was considered to be a golden child among the faculty. And
Mhm.
so I knew whenever I was introduced to someone, I was supposed to, perform. Let me entertain you. So I met this executive of a very, very large healthcare company.
Mhm.
And I immediately started tasting, smelling, seeing bazooka bubblegum. So I'm a blonde. I really didn't want to be talking about bubblegum, but when I'm flooded with that, there's no way around it. So I said, "Why would I be tasting, smelling, and seeing bazooka bubblegum?"
Mhm.
And he said, "Well, we have bowls of it on the tables for our executive team meetings." I said, "Well, who chose the flavor? Why not double bubble?" And he told me the name of the person, and I was flooded with a download of information that that person was concocting a fraud and embezzlement scheme, and I told my client that and said, "You can check the cell phone records, you will find the information you need." The person was also behaving inappropriately in the workplace, towards female members of the staff, and my client found all of that and was able to let that person go, and then that man was my client for many years. So
Wow.
I can't control the information I will get for someone,
Yeah.
um, but it's when it comes, it's usually it's to me, it's a collaboration between my soul and my guides and my client's soul and their guides. Uh, this morning I got a question from someone. How did you know such and such? We just had I don't call it a discovery call, but I'll call it that here for our purposes. And I said, I have inner vision. I looked into the situation and I saw that, blank. So it just depends on what my intuition brings me.
That's amazing. It's such a powerful I I'm really in awe of it. I was actually watching a show on Netflix yesterday about a medium, and I can't remember his name now. The blonde, he's very popular and he reads people. Anyway, we don't have to go down that road, but I'm letting you know that I watched that yesterday. Anyway, let's get back on track with this. So, so tell me a little bit, Fran, about how does someone work with you? Like, what does that look like? So yes, you get these very intuitive hits. The two stories that you've told me so far are phenomenal. That's not an everyday thing. It's not a gift that everyone has. So how is it that you're working with clients? How are you attracting the right people? Talk to me a little bit about that. Or who do you get excited to work with?
Oh, so I get excited to work with people they've usually had an experience in their past that was an experience of what I'm going to call the paranormal.
Okay.
And it has changed their lives. You know, the person I had a complimentary session with yesterday, that I gave that to the person, they had a near death experience, a coming to your senses kind of experience. And so people who have had something in their past where something extraordinary took place, and
Mhm.
they've never been able to quite figure out where that belongs, was it, do they have a gift? Um, and I love to work with them because, you see, intuition is contagious. And my clients either develop their intuition because they work with me, and or they respect intuition because of the accuracy of the information I give them, or they take my program Shine. It is the program in intuition for unconventional leaders. It starts next Monday, and tomorrow is the registration deadline. So Shine is just, it is nutty effective. Um, if anyone wants to go to my LinkedIn profile, you'll see a video I just posted yesterday of an interview with one of the graduates of the program. It's life changing.
That's wonderful, and we'll leave your LinkedIn link, in the comments so that people can find you easily. Uh, so how long of a program is Shine?
Thank you, Meredith. It is 12 weeks. And
Okay.
because we're going to be bumping up against some holidays, we will work together as a group to decide how we navigate the interruptions, because we'll probably finish in January.
And
Um,
mhm.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, and then tell me what are some outcomes that people can expect from taking Shine?
The number one thing is that they set aside doubt. I teach that doubt is a hobby. And if you want to doubt, you can have a ball doing that, but it has nothing to do with your intuition. And for some people, doubt has become such a habit that their intuition is so followed so quickly by doubt that we have to sort of peel those apart. The other thing is that working on your intuition, to your listeners, it is the shortest, most effective path to wholeness that there is,
Mm,
because your intuition is attached to your gut, your heart, your head, everything. And when you develop your intuition, you're going to get so much more authentic and connected to your true self. So, my program is for people who want to do that. And if you're not interested in connection with self, or you're not interested in wholeness, then you shouldn't even be listening to this.
oh my goodness. Let's talk, let's pull that apart a little bit, the doubt piece, which is I would imagine, just as an example, like, I can't tell you how many times I've had, like, a complete out of the box idea that's just non-conventional, and I have the thought, I am like, "Okay, here are the people that if I want this to happen, I need to get in touch with." But for some reason, the doubt will kick in. My brain and the stories that it likes to tell itself kicks in, and maybe I'll start thinking, "Oh, why would that person wanna collaborate with me?" Or, "Oh, this idea is probably too way out there," or, "How am I gonna find funding for it?" Is that the kind of doubt that you're talking about? Like, the kind of like that where we don't trust the intuition and we say, "To hell with the doubt."
Oh, no, Meredith, that kind of doubt is always right. No, I'm being sarcastic. Absolutely, that's the kind of doubt. And what you're describing actually
Mhm.
is called a superego attack. So Freud named three aspects of the psyche. One of them is the superego, or the inner critic, or the judge within. And the only way you're ever going to get out of your own little box, and certainly my box has been constricting me, is when we learn to recognize and defend against superego attacks. So that's one of the key parts of this program. And I don't know that people are going to be running around with no clothes on screaming, "I no longer have doubt." We do. We do have to
I might
throw
lose all my clients.
well, we do have to throw over all the social conditioning that no longer suits us. So, doubting may have been absolutely appropriate when you were 8 years old and you wondered what happened if you would pull one of the buttons off of your sister's Paddington Bear, you know, yes, you need a little bit of doubt if those are your thoughts. But as we get closer to our purpose and live more intentionally, we don't need to be hemmed in by our superego. One of the things I say is the superego is wonderful to keep you from sticking peas up your nose at the dinner table. But if you're kind of over that, you don't need to feel like, shall I say, crap to not stick peas up your nose at the table. I personally am past that, thank the Lord. And so I don't need to feel bad about myself at a dinner party because, golly, those peas are looking really interesting.
Oh my goodness. Well, and also if somebody if you move through your doubt and you just like take 100% responsibility and take action, how that other person receives you has nothing to do with you.
Absolutely. And back to your ideas, I bet you ended up seeing other people take those ideas
Yes. Elizabeth
seriously.
Gilbert talks about that, right?
Well, so I want to just briefly talk about something that some people call universal mind. And
Mhm.
there's a way we're all connected. Imagine all the streetcars in all the world, all the light rail cars with their cables that go up and they get information as well as it is the source of power
Mhm.
for. So imagine that we all have a kind of a cable that goes up to a grid, and we're all standing on a grid. And imagine that we are unconsciously transmitting on those grids.
Mhm.
And we can transmit and we can pick up. So, one of the things that you can do on your own, or you can do in my Shine program, is develop a feedback loop. So, when you get something that feels like an intuitive hit, that's what we learn to call intuitive insights or those aha moments, because the intuition is just one way your brain works. It is the single aha moment. You're driving away from the house and you say, "Ah, I forgot my phone." That's intuition. It's not a special gift. Now, if you develop it, you can make it a special gift. But in any case, if you just imagine that we're all connected, whether we're consciously aware of that or not, and we give and receive ideas. I mean, you might have been the first one to get that idea, one of those ideas. You might have given it more substance by thinking of it, and you may have inadvertently shared it because you didn't act on it. Not making you feel worse, but I'm just saying that you might be part of uh, what's happened with the invention of saran wrap, for instance. And, you know, you'll read about serendipity where inventions were often created at about the same time in various places by people who had no connection. That's true, I believe, of gunpowder and saran wrap and the light bulb.
That's very cool. And then wow, because the light bulb, we all know that story, right? Because Edison is often quoted from the, what, 99 tries before he figured it out. So that to me is fascinating. I'm curious, I like to say first thought, best thought. So let's just talk about that in relationship to this following your intuition. So what is your definition? When I say first thought, best thought, it's like, what is your first thought? Don't judge it. Don't question it. And it's not that necessarily that first thought is going to be the right thought, but that thought, if you don't get it out, we'll never know if it leads to the right thought.
Absolutely. And see, when I work with clients,
Huh.
I will be tuned into you to such an extent that when you say your first thought, I will be able to perceive sometimes with someone who's open and when we have established some rapport, I will be able to perceive your process and notice if that's right on or not. So, can you imagine what it would be like if you had that kind of feedback and you didn't have to wallow in doubt all the time?
So you're like a doubt accountability coach.
Oh, maybe that's what so I haven't known what to call myself, and the reason I decided to call myself an intuitive leadership coach is because I think a lot of people in corporations are thrown into leadership without actually receiving training. And they, what I think makes a leader is their connection to intuition and their emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And I think more and more we're going to see that over time. I think we're going to see that it will be those leaders who have the capacity for empathy, who are going to be um, the most successful leaders in our culture, in our society.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. And you also have entrepreneurs who start their businesses, they become the CEOs, their businesses grow quickly, and they're almost, forced by choice because they grew something into these leadership positions. So it's so important that when you are at that level and you do start to grow a team below you, that you have somebody that can hold you accountable and help you grow and develop, like what you were saying, that emotional intelligence and that intuitive muscle. So I feel like the service that you provide is invaluable. So thank you.
One more thing. Um, if a leader isn't sure about developing their own intuition,
Mhm.
they can start to notice who on their team may have a bit of intuitive access. And
Mhm.
then they can send that person to me, to my Shine program, and they can have a little intuitive wizard on their team.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So you're like forming the alliance that's going to help grow your team. Um, in a more emotionally intelligent way, an intuitive way. People become stronger. You're able to probably do things faster too.
Oh, goodness, yes. When I used to be a technical writer, and when I worked in the corporate world, I remember one company I worked for, there was a woman who made a big uh, dashing announcement that she was going to do this one proposal and spearhead this whatever. And I knew it was never going to happen. And I was named to that team, and I just watched as it fell apart. But wouldn't it have been useful if I could share that with leaders who could have made use of that information, perhaps more diplomatically than leaders have in the past? But
Yeah.
what if we could start to notice? I would just put out to your listeners, I teach intuition using 3 prompts, and the first prompt is, "What do I have energy for?" And this is physical energy. And let's say you don't have energy, but you do your taxes yourself. And 3 years in a row, you notice that you don't have energy for it, but you make yourself do it because you have to do it. Then it occurs to you, "I don't have energy for this. I can delegate this." Or you can notice that over time you just get more and more energy for it and you just love doing it and you actually start a business doing other people's taxes. But we want to stop forcing yourself to do things. This is the same kind of energy that when an animal won't go forward. My dog, I thought he saved my life because he kept me from going forward when uh, there was lightning striking just a few moments later. And if we had been outside, uh, we would have been struck by lightning, I believe. But for some reason, he just stopped dead in his tracks. And it's that instinctual energy, physical energy that I'm talking about.
Beautiful. It's almost like a kinesthetic energy.
Absolutely, and I do talk about the kinesthetic sense. There are people they can read a room, and
Mhm.
what they're really doing is they're using this kinesthetic sense to feel the texture, the feeling of tension in the room or the feeling of joy in the room. I would love for your listeners who may have this ability to kinda drill down about what is your experience, what's informing you, and I bet it's your kinesthetic sense.
Ah, it's really, being a trained actor, there were a lot of methodologies that I was trained in that helps you get really in tune with that kinesthetic sense. And so it's difficult to teach those things over Zoom. However, though, it has helped me tremendously in rooms. It helps
And
me meet my audience where they're at. It helps me with one-on-ones, everything, where I how to enter a room spatially.
yes, and what's interesting is that one of the things people will learn from your program, and one of the things they'll learn from my program, is
Mhm.
how to articulate their experience.
Yeah.
And when people join my programs, or even if I just do a guided visualization and people join that, articulating their experience is very difficult at first because we are so left brained
Mhm.
oriented. But to be able to talk about I remember a physician did one of my guided visualizations, and at the end, he said he was really silent for a while, and then he said, "I feel my entire vasculature."
Wow. Yes, very in
So
tune.
and learning how to be in tune and then actually capture that moment and articulate it. I mean, those are many steps in developing emotional intelligence as well.
And I will say this too, Fran, is that it's a practice. It's an ongoing practice. It's not something that you just learn and then have, but that it needs to be just like our own mental health and the way we go about doing business, all the things. We're all beautiful works in progress.
Absolutely. And I think we have to have an outlet for our creativity. Otherwise, we get stuck.
We do get stuck. Well, Fran, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. I always it's such a delight to speak with you. Would you please just one more time tell people about your Shine program, when it starts, how long it is, and how they can find you to sign up?
Thank you, Meredith. So, my website is reallyflourish.com. My LinkedIn profile is Fran Gallaher. And either place you can um, directly message me, or on my website, you can make a 20-minute complimentary session with me. And I never stick to 20 minutes. It's just it's just an idea, right? A concept of an idea. And the program starts this coming Monday, September 30th. Registration ends tomorrow. You can go to my website, and for your listeners, you can use Angel 11 for $500 off when you register. Angel, all in caps, numeral one, numeral one. And they can register. The program lasts 12 weeks. As we enter the holiday season, we'll be talking about how we can navigate a couple of holiday bumps to our schedule, because we'll probably be ending in January. But this is going to be a marvelous addition to your work, your family relationships. I mean, I would show up when my one of my sons needed me, and he just got used to
Well, thank you, Fran. You are adorable. I so appreciate having you in the Confidently Speaking program and more soon.
And may I just add to your listeners, if you
Yeah,
guys aren't in this online improv group, you are missing so much learning in the guise of a great deal of fun. I mean, we laugh, we just crack each other up. We have a ball, don't we?
we really do. We really do. It's a really